Good afternoon. It's McCollum on Business. I'm Stephen McCollum, and for the next 30 minutes, I'll get you set up on, well, what's updating here on the government shutdown that's happening. Of course, stocks we're paying attention to with the Market Watch and stories you need to know, both national and local, to get you up to date here on what's happening around the business world and all of that exciting stuff happening right now. And look, I've been reading a lot here in the last, couple hours regarding, what's happening with the government shutdown. So I'll do the best here to update you here in just a minute. But first, let's get into it with the Market Watch. And how does the market look today? Well, look at this, folks. Everything is back. Oh, it's still in the green areas, of course. A lot of people were expecting massive sell-offs here with the, with the government shutdown, and that's just not happened so far throughout the stock market. As you can see, the Dow Jones right now up 113 points to the 46,530. The S&P 500's up 7 points, 67.14 for it as of right now. The Nasdaq's up 73 points to 22,826 for it. Or 828 as it just changed. The small cap index, that Russell 2K, 6 points up for 2450 for that Russell 2K here today. Now, Bitcoin, another big day for it. So it's gone from 115, 117 down to 109 over the weekend. Well, here on Thursday, it's up to 120,094 as of today. So Bitcoin is having quite the comeback here in terms of what it is doing here in the marketplace. And how high does this ride in this environment? Well, we're all going to be here to see it as we continue to look at it going forward. Stocks that we're paying attention to early today, look, people are still reporting. There's a lot of news out there and everything. So, a lot of individual stuff happening with the macro side of the government shutdown. First stock is Acadia Healthcare. Acadia Healthcare is the one we're going to look at. 6.40% up as of right now for Acadia Healthcare. Well, it's up big today. Investors Chrome Capital, they filed to push the company to explore strategic alternatives. Folks, what that means is other options they're looking at than what is currently they're doing. So it could mean sales coming up. It could mean a lot of things for this company. And what that is, we don't know. But the market as a whole likes that idea of this company looking at those strategic differences out there. Interesting enough, if you go, and I pulled up the macro of Acadia Healthcare, well, their shares are down 33% here year to date. So a big 6.40% up today, but overall for 2025, a down year for them as well. Next up, let's look at Starbucks. Of course, the coffee chain, global, worldwide coffee chain, kind of making a comeback or trying to. 2.81% up right now for Starbucks. Well, the company announced a small increase in dividend payouts for their investors. Starbucks approved an increase in the company's quarterly cash dividend. Well, it's from 61 cents all the way up to a whopping 62 cents dividend here for Starbucks here today. 1 penny. I understand it's not a big move, but it's a big move in terms of Starbucks going out there and raising that amount up just enough here to get people excited. It also shows that they're kind of backing their investors as well. So Starbucks making this move today, and they're up 2.83% here today. Then you got Fair Isaac. You guys know them as FICO, if you do anything with credit scores. And we know that, there's been a movement here on credit scores. They're allowing other things like Bitcoin, et cetera, to come into the credit reporting. Well, Fair Isaac, they're up big today, 21.46% right now. They unveiled a system that allows mortgage lenders direct access to the FICO scores. So obviously, you won't need to go through TransUnion, Equifax, and those types of companies if you can go directly to Fair Isaac to get those FICO scores. So Fair Isaac's up 21.43% here today. So huge for them. The bad news is, and we don't have the graph for you, but TransUnion, Equifax, well, they're not up very big today. They're actually well down today. Well, because their services aren't going to be as needed coming up here based off of this news here on Fair Isaac having the direct access. TransUnion, I just looked it up, 12% down right now. Equifax down 9% here today as well for them. So some go up with the news, some go down for the news. And don't get me wrong, Fair Isaac, you're probably going to have to buy for that service. So that's going to help Fair Isaac's numbers, of course, going forward while hurting the actual companies that now are responsible for that. Later on, when we come back, we're going to do an update on Lithium Americas. Occidental Petroleum in the news today as well. Big company buying one of their companies today. And then of course I do this, Sarepta Therapeutics is the next company we'll look at later on when we come back here and do our final market watch here of this Thursday. But first, where do we stand in terms of the government shutdown? Well, let's do our best here to take out some of the noise that we're dealing with around this and everything, and get to the straight facts on kind of what is out there. Well, the President Trump administration, they went out yesterday with the shutdown, and they actually froze $26 billion specifically earmarked for Democrat-leaning states out there. Obviously, this is following through with the threat there to use the government shutdown to target Democratic priorities here within the government. So they have officially done it. It was a threat going into, of course, the government shutdown as well. And now, well, President Trump has done that moving forward. So what does that do for the economy with some of this stuff being pulled out? The targeted programs, if you look at them, well, $18 billion for transit projects for New York. And it's, that's obviously a very Democratic state there, New York is. $8 billion for green energy products for California and Illinois as well. Well, so it's very targeted here from the Trump administration with this government shutdown. Of course, the furloughs are another issue here with the government side because 750,000 about federal workers were ordered not to go to work in the federal government. Other ones, of course, are still getting paid, right? Troops, Border Patrol agents, they're still getting paid as they are essential workers and dealing with that. So, planes still getting paid. Air traffic controllers have to show up to work, not being paid. TSA not being paid, but still have to show up to work, for instance. So a lot of changes here, but we're seeing some of it and some of the rumors come true that we're looking at with these companies. So, yeah, the Department, of course, of Veterans Affairs said they will provide burials at national cemeteries because the cemetery workers have been sent home as well. But they did say they would not erect any headstones or even mow the grass here at the national cemeteries coming up from that perspective. We know the Grand Canyon is scheduled to close. I saw Lake Powell is planning to stay open as well from that conversation. So everything's changing here with this government shutdown. The U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, they said they would lay off 1% of its 14,000 employees. They put that out in a letter that was obtained by Reuters, so we know what they're planning on doing. So there'll be more and more news on what's happening around this federal government shutdown, how it's affecting the economy, states, hiring, your neighbors out there. So we'll do our best to keep it updated. It's changing really quickly. Just with that little blurb that we just talked about, I updated and added to it about 4 times here in the last 30 minutes as stuff was coming out. So fast moving as well. And it's not just with the government shutdown, but, hiring has been kind of an issue here this year in 2025. And we got some updates here with some reporting and hiring plans that are out there among U.S. employers for this year through September. Well, they were at the lowest levels since 2008. And this is all according to a new report, which obviously is underscoring the labor market's stagnant state that it is currently in here. Some layoffs are happening, not huge amounts, but nobody is hiring to fill some spots. The weaker planned headcount, well, it's fueled by that steep drop in seasonal hiring announcements as well. This is all from Challenger, Gray, and Christmas. They're an outplacement firm that does this type of reporting. Why are we paying attention to these reports? We did the ADP yesterday, which we always pay attention to. But why are we looking at a Challenger Gray and Christmas report? Well, it came out earlier today, but also we're paying attention to it because the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, isn't coming out with reports during this government shutdown as well. So we have to rely on these private company reports to kind of see where we are at there. So far this year, employers have planned to add 204,939 jobs. Well, that's compared to 483,590 at the same point last year. The last time year-to-date hiring was this sluggish was actually 2009. That was when companies recorded 169,385 new hires. That was when the economy was coming out of that Great Recession in 2009 when that was happening. This group here also said it tracked 100,800 seasonal hiring plans next month. Well, that's down from 401,850 announced at the beginning of October last year. So seasonal hiring out there down 300,000 according to this report out there. Planned job cuts year to date, well, they're at 946,426. That's the highest year to date total since 2020 in this reporting as well. But here's the worst part. They plummeted 37% just from August, let alone last year in this reporting. So this year's job cut announcements have been driven by the federal government layoffs from DOGE earlier this year. But also the big one now since August is businesses' responses to the economic uncertainty, right? The tariffs, inflation numbers, just the overall consumer sentiment. I've been in 2 restaurants over the last couple days at 5 p.m. dinner time, and usually in those restaurants you'd have to wait. We walked right in. Nobody was in these buildings either in the restaurants. We were run a few people in there. So consumer sentiment is definitely a big issue, and people just aren't spending like they had in the past as well. But, inflation's an issue. Store closings, a lot of stores closing out there, obviously leading to a lot of layoffs as well out there. So, interesting enough, other factors, right? 17,375 cuts. Well, they were actually attributed to artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence, even though we have stories all the time of people being laid off or going to be, we have the Walmart story. Salesforce says they're laying off 50% of their workforce due to AI and taking over those roles. It actually isn't a big factor in layoffs, at least as of today. Only 17,375 layoffs were directly attributed to the artificial intelligence out there. So interesting numbers there from that law firm that does that reporting. And like I said, we're paying attention to reports like that a little bit more. Well, because the federal government shutdown is not going to give us, for instance, the non-farm payroll report that comes out, supposed to come out on Friday. So got to go with different sources out there to see where the economy stands at here. And we have another study out. This one's from Goldman Sachs. Well, it says roughly 42% of younger working Americans. So it goes all the way from Gen Z all the way up to Gen X's. So this includes millennials as well. Well, this Goldman Sachs report says that 42% of younger workers report having no spare savings. Yes. So basically, this is after covering their basic living expenses, no savings out there. And they surveyed about 3,600 workers, 1,500 retirees in this survey. So among those just getting by, well, 3/4 said they're struggling to save for retirement as well. So it's not that they're paycheck to paycheck. They're also not able to save for the future or any hard times that are coming. The share of U.S. workers in this precarious financial position, well, it's grown significantly since 1997. Back then, it was 31% lived paycheck to paycheck, according to Goldman. Well, Goldman Sachs out there projects the figure could climb, and it can climb well over half of Americans by 2033. And that's because, housing, healthcare, those costs are rising beyond beliefs. If you're not paying attention to healthcare costs going into next year, with what you're about to get from your companies out there, the ACA, right, the Affordable Care Act, your healthcare costs are about to go 50% or higher going into next year. And that's with getting cut out there. So obviously that's an issue with saving and not living paycheck to paycheck when housing and healthcare are rising at such astronomical costs right now. These findings obviously underscore the challenges that millions of Americans face while making ends meet, but then also managing to set money aside for not just retirement, but financial pinches that happen in everyday life as well. Goldman Sachs calls this a financial vortex, is how they phrase it in this survey. The money crunch does help explain why more than a quarter of older Americans nearing retirement, and they're nearing retirement without anything saved as they get to that age. This gap could get widened, it could get worse, given the financial pressures that are facing American workers currently right now as well. So if you're feeling the pinch out there, you are not alone. It is out there. It is a real pinch. It's been happening for a few years now and everything. So look, let's just take care of our own and take care of people. Let's make sure we can get through whatever is happening in this economy right now as we keep moving forward. Let's get away from those stories, right? Because those are kind of depressing to deal with. Even though it's reality, it is kind of depressing what we're facing here in this economy. Let's have some fun here. Well, sort of, because it's a depressing reason why they're changing their name. But Maxwell House is changing its name for the first time in a 133-year history of Maxwell House. You know, it's a coffee brand if you don't know what Maxwell House is, but they're owned by Kraft Heinz as well. They're going to temporarily rename themselves Maxwell Apartment. And folks, you can, if you're ahead of me here, you know why they're going to do it. Because you can't own a house these days. Obviously, they're doing this, and they said it's to meet the needs of today's consumer because nearly one-third of Americans choose to rent their homes versus purchasing the homes. This is all according to data from the Census Bureau. The median asking rent in the largest U.S. metro areas was just more than $1,700. This is according to Realtor.com data out there. The brand's offering a 12-month lease. They're calling it a lease, quote unquote, on coffee. That is to say, it's designed to keep coffee stock up in your apartment, basically with a year's worth of coffee is what they're planning on doing. So you can get 4 27.5-ounce canisters of Maxwell House original roast ground coffee for $39.99. You see on your screen there, they named it Maxwell Apartment here as well. You can get one 27.5-ounce canister, costs $12.99 on Amazon as well for this. So this is a deal that comes as Americans are also paying more for your coffee. Prices for coffee, obviously coffee beans has been through the roof. We've notated that here at McCollum on Business as well, right? Brazil, weather factors in the areas where these coffee beans are grown, tariffs as well coming up. And prices for the coffee is at record levels due to those global production issues that are happening and, of course, the tariffs on the importing side of coffee. Maxwell Apartment trying to give a little bit of relief, at least on the coffee side here coming up. So, look, we got some good news there in the lieu of bad news there for you coffee drinkers out there. And, you know, we gave you the Starbucks stock earlier here in the program. You see what it's up to. And, you know, it's just tough times for everything out there. And now if you're trying to sell your house out there, you're dealing with a lot of that also because this study's come out. Nearly 1 in 5 American homes listed for sale, well, they reportedly had a price cut in September. Rising inventory has shifted more power to the buyer's side. You can be a little more discriminatory. You can negotiate a little bit more, and sellers are putting price decreases in at this time. The number of listings with price cuts reached 19.9%. It is unchanged from August, and it's up modestly from last year. But homes priced between $350,000 and $500,000, well, they saw the steepest markdowns. They were at 21.6%. Luxury properties over $1 million, well, they were less likely to see reductions. They were just 13.3% for those level of houses out there as well. This is a report that came out this morning from Realtor.com. High-end sellers have greater financial flexibility. So these are those million and up houses, right? They have more equity. They're listing second homes, for instance. So a little bit of financial flexibility here. That's why you see less price cuts on that level as well. They're able to wait a little bit rather than actually cut the pricing. And so that's why you see lower cuts there with those level of houses. Entry and mid-tier sellers, though, they need to sell in order to buy, which is making them quicker to adjust and lower the pricing as they need to unload that house, or you're moving, right? You don't want a house to sit here on the market for 6 months if you're having to move to another area. Price trends also they also change across regions. This was interesting. Last month, 14% of the listings in the Northeast, those were cut prices. 21% in both the South and the West actually cut pricing out here in the West. Among other metros, Denver, they led with 30.7% homes reduced in price. Portland had 30.2% reduction. Indianapolis, 29.7% reductions on those levels there. Active inventory did jump 17% year over year in September. That's obviously keeping the number of homes on the market very high. And it actually keeps it above 1 million for the fifth straight month in the nation. Supply, though, still remains nearly 14% below pre-pandemic levels. So we're not seeing the levels retire, but we're seeing a larger quantity hit the market and less buyers is kind of this quote-unquote vortex that we're in right now in the home buying market out there. And I wish we just had some better stories for you out there. Maybe here's one with some healthy side of things. And we've told you before, Pepsi with Doritos, their Frito-Lay brand, Doritos, etc., trying to change and get those additives out, right? But Pepsi has another story here and kind of a follow through here is a lot of people are following this trend that Pepsi's trying to do, right? Keeping products like Gatorade and Cheetos. Well, you got to keep them vivid and colorful, but then not making them with those artificial dyes that allows those vibrancies to happen out there as well. U.S. consumers are increasingly rejecting these bad dyes. You know, the government's obviously hunting on it. A lot of people laughed about RFK and the Make America Healthy Again movement, but consumers overall have flocked to get that garbage out of our food. So PepsiCo, they make Doritos, Captain Crunch, Funyuns, Mountain Dew. They have a lot of stuff out there in their Frito-Lay brand among their Pepsi lines and their drink lines. Well, they announced back in April they will accelerate that plan to shift to using natural colors in its food and beverages. Around 40% of its U.S. products now contain synthetic dyes, according to Pepsi. 40% have those unhealthy dyes in their products. But just as it took decades for artificial colors to actually get into those PepsiCo products, well, removing them isn't going to be any quicker. It's going to be a multi-year process to remove all those dyes that have snuck in as well. The company said that it's still finding new ingredients, testing consumers' responses, and then waiting for the U.S. Food and Drug Administration to approve those natural alternatives that Pepsi find that work out there. Pepsi hasn't officially committed to meeting the Trump administration's goal of phasing out petroleum-based synthetic dyes by the end of 2028, but they did say it could take 2 to 3 years to get the products, shift the products from those artificial colors to the natural ones. PepsiCo has to identify a natural ingredient that will have stable shelf life and then not change a product's flavor. Then it must ensure the availability of that supply as well in order to mass produce it out there. The company tests prototypes with trained experts and panels of consumers. Then they make sure the new formula won't snag its manufacturing process as they move over to it. It has to design new packaging with the new anti-dye stuff. So this is a multi-year change here, according to PepsiCo, and what we're looking at coming up here for them. And it's interesting what it takes, right? In my mind, my simple mind, it's just stop making it with the artificial dyes. You're already not doing it over in Europe, so that's the interesting case, right? They're not doing it in Europe, so just switch over to that. But apparently it's a giant process that we just aren't aware of here in the Americas as we're dealing with this. And when we come back here at McCollum on Business, we keep the business show rolling here on this Thursday. Market Watch, stocks we're paying attention to. Then we get into the local stories out there. Got an update here from KJazz about the government shutdown affecting operations at Sky Harbor. I'll fill you in on that for those of you looking to travel here coming up. First, drone crashes yesterday for those Amazon delivery drones. Update you on that as well. And then we'll talk a little bit about, American. If you want to get out of Phoenix, get out of the heat of the summer, there's a new place you can go where it's a little bit cooler in the summertime. Tell you about that coming up here out of Sky Harbor as well. So come on back, folks. It's McCollum on Business. And we're back here at McCollum on Business. Appreciate you joining me here on this Thursday. You just saw the ad there for the pit stop. If you're a racing fan out there, we talk a lot of NASCAR this time of year. Is obviously IndyCar's done for the season, and dirt racing's kind of wrapping up across the country. Well, we got a big race here this weekend coming up in Charlotte Roval. We'll have the Truck Series, Xfinity Series, Cup Series. Well, the Look Ahead show. It's going to be up later on today on demand, of course, here at Robat TV, on demand there at the YouTube channel. And then, of course, on the free podcast system as well on Podbean. Just search at the Pit Stop Talk. And then follow them on social media as well, on Twitter, at the Pit Stop Talk as well there for the racing-based stuff. That will be up and posted here in just a couple hours. And then the main event, you saw that as well. That was this morning live, 8 to 10 a.m., Me, 17-year NFL veteran Dale Hellestrae. Uncle Lou comes in on Thursday. We talk some UFC and NFL fight action this weekend and NFL stuff coming up this weekend. That is all on demand as well. Robat TV, YouTube, and then, of course, free podcast system. All the free podcast systems as well out there. Just search the main event with Steven, and it'll pop right up for you there. And this show, as soon as we wrap it up, will go up on the YouTube, Robat TV as well. For you, we appreciate everybody that's finding the programming. The Real Matrix, the first 3 shows are coming out here this week. Everything's been uploaded. Everything's been in there. It's ready to rock and roll for you guys there. So check out the Real Matrix here at Robat TV as well, as that will be up and running tomorrow for you. I'll talk more about that tomorrow, and let's get right back into that Market Watch. And market's right where we thought it would be, right? A little bit of a comeback, it looks like, but everything's still in the green. Dow Jones up to 161 points right now. S&P 500's up to 13. NASDAQ's up to 90 points right now. And then the Russell 2K, the small cap index, 11 points up for that right now. Then you've got Bitcoin out there, 1469 up right now. Folks, that has gone from the 109,000 over the weekend, hitting the 120,179 here today for Bitcoin. So quite the recovery for Bitcoin here today. And stocks we're paying attention to. First one, Lithium Americas. We've talked a lot about this stock lately. Well, it's backwards today, right? It's down 4.40%. It has been up a lot lately, mainly because the federal government, especially yesterday was a stock we were watching, federal government bought 5% equity, or they're going to. And then also into that mining facility up there in Nevada. Well, it's down 4.26% today. Concord Genuity, if I can say that name properly, they downgraded to sell. They were speculative before. And basically, they say it's due to the likely limited benefits of the lithium company's recently revised loan with that U.S. Department of Energy. And that's that 5% equity stake we were talking about. Well, that investment company says, quote, "We believe that the recent run-up in the stock price is overdone. It does not accurately reflect the valuation implication of the revised deal with the DOE." They said in that note there. So not everybody's happy about Lithium America and what's going on with it. Well, they're down 5.11% here today off of that news. And then there's Occidental Petroleum's the next stock we're going to look at. Berkshire Hathaway came out today and announced that it was going to buy the oil company's petrochemical division. It's called OxyChem. Berkshire Hathaway is going to buy it for about $10 billion in cash. Well, then the stock went backwards. 7.58% Occidental Petroleum Corporation did, down even though Berkshire Hathaway is buying that $10 billion cash company, OxyChem, from them. Incidentally enough, Class B shares of Berkshire Hathaway also down 0.2% today, based off of that selling information here this morning. So interesting moves here by both of those companies here today. And then Sarepta Therapeutics is the last one we're going to look at here today. They're up 19.62% right now. They're a biotech company. If you don't know what they do, they're up big today, 19.62%. We have no idea why they're up. There's no catalyst that's being recorded. I checked CNBC, Fox Business. I checked all the talking heads that talk about big moving stocks. Nobody knows what the catalyst is for this stock to move up. But over the last 3 months, according to CNBC, Sarepta stock shares, they're up more than 20% over the past 3 months. Something is having this stock move. Nobody at least has found it yet out there. A stock to pay attention to with big movements here over the last 3 months, and especially today, 19.72% up for it here today. So it's interesting when stocks do this, right? What is causing this? And usually there's some guessing. Haven't been able to see it yet from, of course, the experts that deal with this type of stuff out there as well. And let's get into a couple local stories here, right, with the government shutdown and everything. We told you about the Grand Canyon possibly being shut down. Check before you go up there. Other federal parks and things also potential to shut down. And we know a lot of questions around, TSA, the air traffic controllers as well. Well, KJAS came out with this, and they say that, people traveling to and from Sky Harbor Airport, well, you're not going to feel the impact as of yet of the government shutdown, because right now they say it's business as usual over there at Sky Harbor. There will be a day where that might change, but as of now, ready to go. A spokesperson with the airport came out and told KJAS that they do not anticipate any visual impacts to operation due to the shutdown at this time, is what they say. And that's because most essential federal workers, including air traffic controllers, TSA, well, they're required to continue working without pay as they are essential. They just got paid on Friday. The next pay date's October 16th coming up. So that's the date to pay attention to on that pay date as well. The National Air Traffic Controllers Association has urged its members to, quote, rise to the occasion and continue delivering the consistent high level of public service provided on a daily basis. That's their official stance coming out there as well. If you go back to the last government shutdown, as I looked at the last one in 2018, 2019, went back to the ones in 2008 as well. Interesting thing is, the longer they go without paychecks, they can affect this as well, right? Because in that last government shutdown in 2018, 10 air traffic controllers called in sick after more than that month of the government shutdown. It's like 28, 30 days. Same thing with TSA. They started calling in sick as paychecks were being made out there. And they were a big part, if not the big part, on why and what triggered an end to the shutdown. Obviously, people traveling got mad. They started calling their government. The governor, the senators, et cetera, couldn't travel around and get places either. And that was the end of the shutdown. And will we see it get to that level again? Kind of the question that we have to think about moving forward here with the government shutdown happening. But as of now, Sky Harbor, clear as of now. How long will that stay is the bigger question as well. Yesterday, we got the news out there that an investigation has been launched by the FAA because Amazon delivery drones actually crashed into a construction crane out there in the West Valley. In the Tolleson areas where those Amazon drones are being tested as of now. So it was 2 drones crashed into the crane yesterday as well. Nobody was injured. The drones were the only things damaged in the deal. This happened out there at 96th Avenue and Roosevelt Street, which is where the Amazon drone facility is located at in that area. As well, about 2 miles from the Amazon site, if you want to give you an idea of how far they got before they crashed as well. Officers responded to that call of the crash around 10 a.m. yesterday. As well, they said when the police said when they arrived, well, Amazon was also showing up as well. So that tells you Amazon probably got notified by the systems as well that drones Dan out there as well. Yes. So they've been testing it for a while. They got FAA approval about a year ago to do this and everything. Customers in the service area can have their packages delivered by those drones for an additional fee. Thousands of items, by the way, but the packages cannot weigh more than 5 pounds at this time for there. Interesting enough, I searched Amazon for the most delivered packages. What's the item most delivered by these drones? AA batteries, believe it or not, ironically enough, are the most ordered things delivered by drones out there as well. So these drones weigh close to 80 pounds, by the way, and 2 of them crashed into this crane out there. So that's 160 pounds coming down on this crane yesterday out there in Tolleson as well. So the FAA is taking over the investigation, obviously dealing with aircraft. So have to see what comes out of this. Does this lead to changes in the Amazon drone delivery service? When will they be back and running again? Things to that effect. Questions to be answered here coming up. That's why you watch us here at McCollum on Business, as we get you that information. And finally, it's hot here, over the summer. We're cooling down now a little bit, but keep this in mind for next year, maybe. American Airlines, they're the largest commercial airline operating here at Phoenix Sky Harbor. I know Southwest is right on their heels there, but they are now doing a connection here from Phoenix Sky Harbor. You might be interested in, because yesterday they announced they're adding a nonstop service between Sky Harbor and Anchorage International Airport. Don't go in the wintertime, folks, but keep it in mind for the summertime coming up here as well. The route's not going to start till next year. Obviously, it's going to be seasonal out there as well. It is going to start next summer with flights first taking off May 21st. It's going to operate through September 8th for that connection. So obviously, cooler places to go to in the summer. And American has targeted that as a place that Arizonans probably want to go, right? As well. So there you go. Make plans for summer now to get out of this heat up there to where it's like a high of like 58 there in Anchorage, in July and August when, of course, it's 115, 120 plus as well. So it'd be interesting to see where they go. The other side of this is a direct flight from Phoenix to Anchorage. That means a lot of connecting flights will be coming in for American Airlines here into Phoenix for people making that trek up there. So make the airport more busy, bring more people to the Phoenix area as well. That way they can, get hot and sweaty while they're waiting for their flight up there to Anchorage to escape the heat and see that area as well. American, by the way, right now only flies to Anchorage from Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. And even Chicago O'Hare are the 2 airports they fly out of to Anchorage right now in the summertime is when they do that. So adding Phoenix to that list as well as Phoenix Sky Harbor making some changes. They did announce kind of the schedule as well. So, and I find it interesting when they do the schedules. It's going to leave Sky Harbor at 8:35 p.m. That's going to allow the connecting flights, obviously, to come into Phoenix, people to offload, and then get on the flight later in the day. So traveling in, right? You're going to arrive in Anchorage the next morning at 1:29 a.m. That time. Then when you leave Anchorage, your flight will depart at 11:55 p.m. from Anchorage. You'll arrive in Phoenix at 6:24 a.m. From there as well. Kind of like the Hawaii flights there for American and those direct flights as well. If you're interested in this, you can start booking October 6th. So just 4 days from now, you can start doing that. And I think I found my vacation spot coming up for next summer with a direct flight there. Hey, it's finally good to get some good stories in here with this government shutdown. Makes it kind of a depressing business show, right? Maybe tomorrow we come back and have some good news. Maybe we talk more about the effects of the shutdown. There's only one way to know. Come and join me tomorrow, 11 o'clock here, McCollum on Business. We keep it rolling here and get you ready for the weekend. We'll see you then, folks. Everybody have a great afternoon.